this sort of goes back to what Hamish was just saying about forcing self-initiated projects and that being the worst sort of things, and ticking off checkbox and things like that. I think as always, like designers and creators, we always think about this self-initiated project, and we sort of see a very short lifespan about where we want to go when we sort of think about a project. But what we don't talk about really is about that uncertainty and fear about, when you start a project and where it's going to go. So this is sort of all for all three of you, really. How do you guys deal with that uncertainty and fear of getting to that certain point of thinking, where do I go next and what's going to happen? How do you deal with that when you've got a self-initiated project you've done?
For me, that's been the hardest thing. Absolutely. It's almost sent me back to, I don't know, numerous times. I mean, I had a whole year of panic attacks, weekly basis. I had Euro CBT because I wasn't sure where my next job was coming from. This is before my book deals, really. And that climaxed to when I got out of the house and I drove the car into another car. Had a car crash because I just had a row about where's the next penny coming from. That's the reality of being self-employed sometimes. Not that everyone's going to smash their car up, but I was at that lowest ebb somewhere before my book deals where I was thinking, the internet's been, there's so many people doing Etsy, I'm not being found, where's my next penny going to come from? Am I going to, I didn't want to go back to teaching, I could have done, but every bone in my body said that would be going backwards. But I didn't know what more I could do. I was inventing things every day and smashed the car up. And that's when we moved and built the studio in our garden. We moved to a smaller place, freed up some money, built the studio. And it's bizarre because we built the studio in order for me to have the space to do lots of screen printing, thinking we need a big space. The second we got that studio finished, I was getting more and more illustration work, more book work. I could have done it in the tiniest little room. I didn't need the studio, but I do believe sometimes you've just got to go down a different path and trust that it's going to work out. I never gave up. I just kept going, and it kind of did, somehow or other, luck came my way, but that is the hardest thing. And that's why I always say to people, if they want to give up their job, don't give up your job to start a new career and something else. I was naive. Keep your job going part-time or do your new career in the evenings until you can earn enough to then give up your job. Because the pressure on you to be creative every day and to earn money from it when no one's buying anything is horrendous. That's worse than not liking the job that you get a salary from. So, sorry, that sounds very grim, but...
No, it is like it is.
It is hard. It can be hard.
Well, I think I've always dealt with the doubts by working with other people because, life is doubt, isn't it? You wake up every morning and you think, why, what's happening, who am I, what day of the week is it, etc. Is my work any good? Does it matter? Is our work any good? Does it matter? And somehow you keep going. And I think the kind of the doubt is part of the process, and the more you kind of do it, you don't get more comfortable with it, but you just accept that that's part of this whole thing. And it's easier to deal with when you are working with other people, and it's easier to deal with when it's a job for a client, because there's a very specific goal. The worst thing about so-called self-initiated work, and why I would never want to be an artist, and it would terrify me, is that the problem is you have to believe in your own problem before you start working on it. And so actually defining the brief, if you like, or the scope, or the parameters within which you're going to work is harder than doing the work itself. So there's all these sort of weird tensions, but it is easier when you've got other people to, collaborate with and give you perspective. I don't think I could do it on my own. I wouldn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, to echo what Hamish has just said, really, you've got to embrace it, I think. It is part of the process. It's it's horrible, it's agony, but everyone, you know, the hardest thing I find is the isolation of it. You just think it's you, and every single person goes through that, no matter what they do for a living or anything. Everyone has that doubt, and unless you sort of find a mechanism within yourself or within your work or within both to sort of encourage it and make it healthy, then it stops you from doing anything. It just really kind of paralyzes you, and that's the worst thing about it. Some people just let it stop them doing stuff, when actually it can become the best thing of which you judge your work against. You know, if you're scared about something, it means you care. It means, you know, it doesn't just mean that, but it means a lot of wider things are connected to it. But it also means that you're gonna, if you use it healthily and constructively, you're gonna start making your work better. You're gonna bring other people into the fold, and say, do you share the same concerns I have about this? You know, and it can become part of the whole thing. And I encourage it. I think you've got to have that little edge of uncertainty. You're never going to do all that interesting, that new, that brave, unless you're fucking terrified. Because
you take more risks, don't you?
Yeah.
I think, and it spurs you on. You'd either give up, or you think, no, I'm determined to push through this.
You know, you're walking into a dark room. You know, there's always going to be an element of fear there, no matter how confident you are about it. But you know, Hamish sort of mentioned it in his talk about that kind of element of surprise coming back from work. You know, that's part of fear. That's not just experimentation. If you got the same thing, really. It's like, I don't know the outcome of this, but you trust it and you do it, and that's how you push forward with stuff. Because if you don't doubt things, you're gonna know what the outcome is, and that's just formulaic, and that's not what we define as creative, really, is it? If you know the outcome of everything you're gonna do, why are you doing it? You know, you do it once and that's it. You know, that's kind of like being a fucking plumber or something, isn't it? I know how to fix that because I've fixed it 100 times before. You do this, you do this, you do this, and it's done. That's fine, and that's great, but that's not what everyone sort of claims they get into the game for. So I think you've got to find a way of embracing it and using it constructively. I was terrified doing all my stuff. I still am. Of all those things that everyone else is this shit? Am I shit? Can I afford to do this? You know, am I going to go under? Am I going to end up back at my mum's house? You know, rent, family, partners, kids, pets, mortgages, phone bills, it's all there right on you. Fucking this enormous ape sat on you.
So why do you do it then?
You know, somebody once told me, I remember, it was Ben Casey who runs the Chase. He said to me once, I remember, I used to work for Ben, I went into his office once, he was like, you look miserable. I was like, I'm fucking stressed. I'm so fucking, and he was like, and he just said to me, you'll get addicted to that. I think I am, you know, it's that kind of, unless I feel that little clench in my ass, that, oh no, that little, oh shit. I'm not going to trust it. I'm just going to think, I'm not scared of this. This is boring.
The thing with Ben is he's just a little bit addicted to seeing people who are stressed.
I love Ben.